Have you ever taken inventory of your yarn stash? Do you keep track of what you have and for what projects? I have never done that, but I decided that it was time to take inventory and see just how many skeins of yarn I actually had. Hi, my name is Michelle Ferguson, and I'm the crochet pattern designer of Two Brothers Blankets. And today I'm going to share with you 5 things that I learned from taking inventory of my yarn stash. So first, why take inventory of my yarn stash? Let me give you the backstory. So we just got done with Thanksgiving and Black Friday and all the sales and all the deals and all the shopping, right? Well, I was doing some online shopping at a yarn website, getting ready to make a purchase. It was the best deal that I had seen all year on this yarn. Great price. I wanted to get that yarn. Well, as I'm adding to cart and getting ready to make my purchase, I thought to myself, do I have the yarn for this project that I have in mind on hand? Like, is it in my stash? Could I use something in my stash? And I realized I had no idea. Like, I have my shelf of yarn and I have my cubbies of yarn and baskets and boxes and bags. We're not going to talk about those. But I really had no idea what exactly I had on hand, how much of something, if I had sweater quantities or whatnot. So I decided I want to take inventory of my yarn and see what I have before I make any more purchases, before I buy any more yarn that I don't have room for, that could be used by something I have on hand. So that's why I started and why I decided to take inventory. How I did it, I got an Excel sheet. I opened up Excel. I put yarn inventory 2023 as my title. And then I had the brand. I made columns for the brand, the name of the yarn, the weight of the yarn, the color of the yarn, the lot number of the yarn, and then how many skeins I had. And so how I did it was I would write, so like say I had some We Crochet Brava worsted. I would do We Crochet as the brand, Brava worsted, number 4 weight, then whatever color I had, the lot number I had of that color, and then how many of that color I had. So for the quantity, I would do like 5, or if I had partial skeins, I would do 5 full, 1 partial, and that's how I would write it. And that's what I did for every single piece of yarn that I have in my house. So it took a few days, and then we had the holiday and we got sick. And so it took way longer than it should have, but I was able to take full inventory of my yarn. Now I know what I have. I still ended up buying the yarn that was on sale because I didn't have that yarn that I needed for the project. So I did do that. That seems to always be the case, right? But I've learned a lot in doing this, and I want to share with you what I learned. So, first off, when I was doing the filling out the Excel sheet, some of the skeins of yarn, you could barely tell if they were full or not. So what I did is I took my kitchen scale and I set it to grams and I weighed the skeins on that to see if they were full skeins or not. And I learned something really cool. The first thing I learned was most skeins of yarn or balls of yarn or whatever weigh more than the actual amount it says. So if it's 100 grams, I found often that it was like 104, 105, 106 grams of yarn. And at first I thought, well, it's the label. Like it must be adding weight to it. So I would take the label off, and sure enough, usually there's a little bit more than like the actual amount it says on the label. So that was cool. So if you're ever wondering, like, do I have enough yarn? Or is this a full skein? Definitely check that out. And if you're like a little off, or maybe you might need a little extra, check to see if it maybe has a little extra. So that was interesting. I don't know how they do that. They probably just like get to a certain point. I don't really know. But very often, like 99% of the time when I weighed it, and it was a full skein. It was actually more than the amount it said it was in grams. Okay, so another random thing I learned about yarn and my yarn stash is lot numbers often start with the number 6. I don't know why, but like 90% of the lot numbers that I had from different brands, all different brands, started with the number 6. Some of them are, the ones that do start with the number 6, I found are longer. I don't know, eight digits maybe, 7, I don't know. But those often are like a longer number. Occasionally I found that lot numbers were very short, like 4 digits, like 2022 or something like that. But a lot of the times, and across different brands, I found that it started with the number 6. Super random, but interesting nonetheless. Third, a lot of lot numbers I found were the same, like the exact same number. Oftentimes I found this to be true for the same brand and type of yarn. So if I had, again, We Crochet Brava worsted, but I had a blue and a pink, they would be the same lot number. So I'm assuming that's the same day or, whatever lot of yarn that was dyed on that day at that whatever. And they gave it that number. But the reason we look at lot numbers is to determine that they are all from the same batch, basically. So if you're using blues and like all one solid blue for a sweater, you want the lot numbers to match, because if you've ever had the problem where you don't have matching lot numbers and they just are slightly off in color, that's going to be a big issue come time to make your sweater. So that's what I'm assuming, is that it was probably the same time, even though it's different colors. It was dyed at the same time or whatever. But yeah, the lot numbers would be the same for pink and blue, and it was often the same within like that type of yarn. So another random interesting fact, right? Now, number 4, I learned that I have a lot of partial skeins in my stash. A lot. Just half-used skeins that I didn't use all of. And the thing about that is I have no idea what to do with those. I mean, I can use them for some things, ear warmers, small projects, multicolored projects, yes. But oftentimes when I'm designing, I'm using a large amount of yarn, a sweater quantity, in like 1 or 2 colors, if any more than 1, usually 1, but sometimes, 2 colors. Very rarely more than that. Occasionally blankets. And I'm also kind of a snob when it comes to crossing, like using multiple kinds of yarns, like Mighty Stitch, and then for one stripe of a blanket, and then Brava worsted for another stripe. I'm kind of like, I don't typically like to do that. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I just don't do it a lot. And I think that's why I have so many partial skeins. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do with those skeins. If you have any ideas, or tell me, like, if you use your partial skeins for something, stash buster of some sort, let me know, because I'm trying to think about what I want to do with those. Because, and what happens is they usually sit for forever and never get used. And I kind of don't want to do that anymore. I want to find a use for them. A project, or multiple projects, or small projects. I don't know. Something for the partial skeins. So if you have any ideas, let me know in the comments, please. And then lastly, the 5th thing I learned when taking my stash is this coming year, 2024, I really, really want to work through my stash. Not order more yarn, not get yarn support, work through what I have. I ended up, after I got done putting it all in, putting in the skeins, counting full skeins and partial skeins, I ended up having, in balls and whatever else kind of yarn, I ended up having 284 skeins of yarn. Partial, full, like all that counts. but that's a lot. And I do have quite a bit of sweater quantity, larger quantity, big enough amounts of yarn to do some designing with it, remakes. I've always wanted to do some remakes. That's a lot of the time why I get yarn. I plan to remake this pattern or design this pattern, and then it sits on my shelf. So a goal that I have for 2024, and you guys can hold me to this, is to not buy yarn for at least till the next Black Friday sale or big sale at the end of the year. If I can get through some of this yarn and really lower my inventory throughout 2024 and until the end of next year, I will be super proud of myself, because I am one that usually just, I need this, I have this idea, let me go order the yarn. And that's how I ended up with this many skeins of yarn, right? So that is one thing I really want to do in the coming year. Use up this yarn. Use the yarn that I've purchased for certain projects, for those projects. Actually get to them this year. Yeah, I think that's going to be one of my big goals for 2024, is to work through the stash. Since I have it on Excel, on the computer, saved, what I can do now is when I use those yarns, I can highlight them or take them off or whatever as they get used. So I'm still able, now that I have it all written down or put into an Excel form, I am able to keep track now of what I have and what I use. And I could put on another column what I used it for and how much is left over or anything like that. I am able to keep track of my yarn stash now. I have inventory of it, and I hope to do this again next year. And hopefully we'll have much less and we'll have used a lot of it and can replenish at the next big Black Friday sale. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But that's a goal. I'm not going to buy any more yarn. I'm not even going to get yarn support unless it's for something that I have to use their specific yarn or whatever, for commission design or something. But I'm going to work through this stash. I'm going to do it. That's my goal. So anyways, I hope this was interesting to you. Please let me know. Do you take inventory of your yarn stash? Do you keep track of what you have? Or do you just use it as you have it? I'd love to know. And I'd love to know your ideas for partial skeins and what I can use to use up some of those that have smaller amounts of yarn than a full skein. So thanks so much for watching. I hope you will hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel if you like what you see. If you have any questions, like always, please leave them in the comments, and I will see you again soon. Have a great day.